gonna do it all. Hello and welcome to the stream. So, I streamed the other day about building a package in Laravel, and to be honest, I did a really bad job of it. So I wanted to redo it. I had a good bit of feedback on the last video that I completely agree with. I started off diving really deep into detail as if you had no idea what's going on, and very quickly ran into just not explaining enough. So I'm going to build something different today. Let's do it. Hello, and thank you for joining me. So I'm going to start brand new package. There's nothing in there. There's absolutely zero here, other than maybe idea directory from my editor. So what we're going to do, we're building a new package called Laravel API Manager. And what this is going to be is quite interesting, actually. So I'm going to start with a README, because when building a brand new package, I like to start with the idea of what I want to achieve, what I want it to look like, how I want it to work, and go from there. So this is the Laravel API Manager. Let me zoom in. Put some PHP in there. So this is going to consist of two different parts. We'll have integrations, and we'll have how we work with integrations. So one thing that I've noticed is when I'm working with APIs is that, well, to start with, there's no real fluidity to it. It's all just kind of like, it just doesn't feel quite right all the time. So what I want to do is I want to create an integrations configuration file. And let's say we've got a GitHub integration. This is going to have a URL, which we can configure, and it will be in version control, all that good stuff, github.com. It'll have auth. The type of authentication it's going to be bearer auth, and the token will be something like that. And that'll be it for that one. Then let's say we've got another integration, and this time let's say we've got the Treble integration, for example. So the URL that we want to go to is, hey, not that one, api.treble.com. We've got auth. We need that to be authenticated. The type is header. Our API token for that might be, yeah, it'll be a different token, obviously. But then what this will be is, this is the header name will be API key, for example. So what we've got is we've got two different types. This one we don't need a name on because it's defaulting to bearer. However, we can add that if we want to. So the idea there is that I want to be able to describe the integrations that I have within my application in a central place as a config file. And then when I want to use this, what I want to be able to do is I want an integration for GitHub. And then this should be a pending request. So I can say get something and then get the JSON out of it. So it's a wrapper around the pending request a little bit. All of this part here is just configuring based on your integration that goes in. So the way that we need to start with this is that we need a couple of files. We want our git ignore. So inside of our git ignore, we're going to want to ignore anything within vendor because we don't commit our vendor file. any auth.json we might end up having. We don't want our idea directory to be committed. If this is ever opened in VS Code, I don't want that opened. And if you use a fleet, then I don't want that either. Beyond that, I think I'm pretty much okay. So that's a file. So I'm going to put this down here a little bit. Files, directories, all good. Next, we're going to want Git attributes. So Git attributes. What attributes do we care about? So all text, we want to kind of say auto, and the end of line is LF, which is a Linux format. Then within here, we're going to have any PHP file. We want the diff to be PHP format. Any wrong one, wrong key. And on Markdown files, we want the diff to be Markdown. I don't think there's going to be many other files right now. There might be later, but we'll see. So anything.read.github export ignore. I'm really not typing well today. And I'm gonna leave it at that for now. I think that is probably good enough. I like to add an editor configuration. So editor config. So boot 3. And then all files, we want the character set to be UTF-8. End of line, use that. The indent size is 4. Indent style is space. Insert final new line as true. And then trim trailing white space to be true as well. Then I always get that key wrong. Any markdown files, what we want is trim trailing white space to be false because it's a documentation format. And then any file that is YAML, or JSON, we want the indent size to be 2. That is about it for this part, I think. That should be enough. YAML, JSON, that is all formatted correctly as far as I can see. Then finally, what we're going to want to do is I'm going to come over to this screen and grab my pint.json that I would usually use. What this does, it's got a preset, it's got a preset of rules. I've got this as a link inside of a GIST. It's a public GIST, so it's all viewable and versionable. You can see that and use it if you would like. Then I have my typical PHP stan. Oops, what did I just do? There we go. You just grab my PHP stan configuration. And that is just super, super basic. So, yeah, it's a good GIST. Wendell, I actually think me and you worked on that together. I had one, you had one, and I created like a super merge of them, which works well. So now let's look at the next important thing, which is that composer.json. So with PHP Storm, I don't know if you're aware, if you can come over here to click new, and you can say new composer.json file, which is great. I'm going to make this a Laravel package, Laravel API manager, ignore that. That's not proprietary, it is MIT, stable, description. I'll come back to require. We're going to say PHP upwards of 8.2. Security advisories, we're always going to want config, all good. So this is a basic setup and it works. So for this, I can just say composer install and we will be good. Just pay notifications. All right, so we are pretty much set up now. This is all good to go. Building a Laravel package, you want to consider a couple of things. You want to, first off, require dev, orchestra test bench. This is a fantastic library for basically lots of test utilities for building your Laravel package. It includes the latest version of Laravel as well, which means that you don't have to install Laravel specifics. So I don't have to say, okay, this also requires Laravel contracts, Laravel support, because it's all done in dev. It's all there. It's all there. We're good. Don't need to worry. So what we want to do is then look at auto loading. So this is, I'll drop the link in, schema that you would typically use for your composer documentation, your composer file. And it saves the properties, what you need and where. So package links require and then auto load. I like to do this kind of in order so that I know how, it follows a standard. So after require, I want my auto load. I want to auto load using PSR4. Treble API manager is going to live within the source directory. I can create that directory nice and quickly. Then my auto load dev, again, PSR4, tests, and then I can create that. So now if I just run a quick composer update, our directory should be up and running. Everything should be good to go. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is create a service provider. Providers, and I always call this package service provider. Autoloaded namespace do not need to start with a double slash. They need to end with a double slash. That is your namespace. Where you start, it has to end with one. Here we go. From the docs, good to go. I don't know whether that was a PSR 0. No, it wasn't. Might be something else. But no, it needs to end with a double slash, not start with a double slash. So inside my package service provider, I'm going to say that this extends the service provider. And that is being loaded in from vendor orchestra. I think is it test bench or test bench core source. Yeah. Laravel. It's somewhere within here. I'm not sure what half of that does. I haven't really paid attention, but that is how that part works. So I've got this, and what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to have a boot method, which will return void, and I'll come back to that. And we're also going to have our register method, which will also return void, and I will come back to that when I want to add my bindings. I always struggle to find it too, isn't it? At least it's not just me. Okay, so I'm going to want a couple of extra packages. So composer require test with all dependencies. Yes, I want to allow it as a plugin. Fantastic. Now I want to say composer require pest type coverage. And now we're good. So I'm going to have pest testing as well as pest type coverage, pest in it, already started you, thank you very much, and away we go. So we now have a PHP unit configuration file. We've got a test suite within tests. it's including the source directory. If you saw what I deleted there, that's the app directory. By default, it adds that. I don't have that, so I don't need to worry. And now I can say cache results is false. So let's close all of those tabs, come over to my tests. I'm going to delete those. I delete this as well because I like to create a different one. And what I like to call this is package test case. This is an abstract class, and this needs to extends the test case from orchestra. So I can say use that, drop that, and get package providers. This will return an array. So this returns an array, and it will return package service provider. Awesome. Now I can add a doc block for this. So this will be application on, and then this will return an array of int class string. So we can be a bit more type safe than that one if we really need to. I don't think we need to, but you can go this far. You could even go as far as saying that it extends the service provider like that if you really wanted to. So there's that. So inside pest, declare asterisk types. Delete everything within here because I don't need it right now. So users package test case in the current directory, because I'm not separating my unit in feature test. I'm just keeping it like this. So there is that. Pest is set up. Testing is set up. I have my provider. I can now go and add some scripts. So config, I like to add scripts. First one will be Pint. I haven't installed that yet, but that's fine. We will then have scan. We will then have test. Types. I also like to add my own custom vendor dump. So what do I need to install? Composer, require, dev, Laravel, Pint. While that installs, I can come over to here, close that down because it's doing stuff. All good. Types. So I can say vendor bin pest type average. Pests vendor bin pest scan vendor bin php scan. I want to analyze and set the memory limit to I like to set it to 3 gig because I've got enough RAM. Pint, I can just run vendor. Let's do that. Bin Pint dump. So composer dump auto load, optimize, class map authoritative, and strict PSR. So I like to go through and test these. So composer dump. Cool. I always spell that bit wrong. So class map authoritative. I always spell it wrong. So I like to just go back and make sure that I'm running things correctly. Good. Next. Composer Pint. That works. Next one. Composer Scan. That works. Composer Test. All good. And then Composer Types. Fantastic. I am now set up with all my dev tools, with everything I could possibly want to get started. So the first thing I want to do is add. How do I want to start this? I've got my provider over there. What I want to do is config. I'm going to want some sort of config. I'm going to create a new PHP file called API Manager. This will declare script types and it will return my config. So where I want this to be defined, my definition is going to be base path integrations.yaml. That is where I want it to be. So in my provider over here, when I am booting, if we go over to the Laravel docs, laravel.com docs, go down to digging deeper and package development, resources configuration. So what we want to do inside of our boot, we want to let it know that we publish this config file to that location. So we can come here and we can say this publishes directory config API manager config path API manager.php. We can add tags. So API manager config. That will allow us to load our configuration into a Laravel application. We want to publish this specific file to that location. Config path API manager.php matches in name. And we add a tag there so that when we run vendor publish, we can say vendor publish tag API manager config, and it's just going to do it. So that is the first step. We can publish that config, which means that we can get the definition from the integrations.yaml. Right, so where next? I guess we're going to want some sort of data object representation. Data objects. I always call them data objects, not domain transfer objects. It's just my framing. So we're going to call this an integration. We're going to have a constructor so that we can define everything out nicely. We will have a read-only string for the URL. Back to my README. We'll have a URL and we'll have auth. So we're going to add an auth file in here as well. Public function construct private read-only. I'm going to have to make something here. Type private read-only string. I'm going to add it as a value. So instead of token, it is value. It might be a token. It might not be. It could be a username password pair. It could be a million things. And then private read-only string the name. So with this, I'm going to want to say directory enums, and we're going to want to create auth type enum. This will return a string. So case bearer is bearer. Case header is header, like that. Nice and simple, clean, nothing major. There we go. So to type. This is going to be an auth type. That can be a read-only class, which means that I need to clean those spaces up. Not 1990. Stop trying to force me to do things. So public static function from array, going to pass an array of data, and we're going to return auth back. Then new auth. The type is auth type from where the value is data type. The value is data value, and the name is going to be data name or null. So this is nullable. We've got an array here, and what we want this to do is add an array shape up here so that we have type as a string, and we're going to want value as a string, name as a nullable string. Actually get rid of all of those potential issues there. Okay, so now how do we want this to be returned? I'm not sure if I should want these to be private. I might make them public for now and increase it when I know if I want it or not. So inside my integration, we have a URL, and then we have auth, private, read only, auth, done. Again, public static function from array. Array comes in the data, and this is going to return an integration. We can return a new integration there. The URL is data URL, and auth is going to be auth from array. Data is data auth, like that. Simple, simple, clean, done. So let's add an array shape to this one so that our URL is a string. Now auth is an array with the shape of type string. I can probably grab this array type string, blah, 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 grab all that. Come over to here. Put that in. I'm going to make these public again for now. Make this a read-only class. And just fix that spacing right there. So what we've got is a nice way to create our integrations and register them. So what we need to do is have a way to kind of create this. Right, I'm going to create a HTTP directory, and within here, I'm going to create an manager class. So this manager, public function construct. And this is going to have an array of integrations. Property is written but never read. Perfect. So in my service provider, when I register, what I want to do is get the package config, read the package config, create the manager from the config. So that's quite a lot to be doing. I'm going to want to import another package. So composer acquire Symfony YAML. Looks like it's already there. Maybe. Nothing to update. Cool. Okay, so we've got access to that already. So all of this is great, but does this belong in our service provider? Most likely not. The best place for this, I would say, would be in the manager class itself over here. So let's create a public static function, I don't know, make. This will have an array of integrations that will come from our service provider and then create it itself. So YAML equals YAML pass input integrations. So I need to get that as a string. There we go. So my service provider, I don't need to do that. What I need to do is the package config, config API manager there. So this app, I want to bind my manager class to a concrete where we're going to call manager make the integrations is I don't want to do that. So at this point, I've got an array, which means that if I go like array integrations, I will have an array. So I need to JSON. Do I? Okay, so JSON encode. No, that might be really ugly. Yeah, let's play with this. Let's play with it. I'm just going to add a string for now. So I can pass. I'm going to pass a file. So file name like that. Over here. No, here. Make we can say config integration. So if I look at config over here, API manager definition, that is what I called it, definition. So I'm going to add a quick array here, an array shape, definitions is an array. Why has it got an underline? Missing parameters, integrations string make. Okay, let's just reopen that. Manager string config. Make string config, yep. An array is given. Nope, that is a string to a file name. That should resolve all of that there. So we're going to want to add a test for this, right? So at this point, down here, we're going to go and say, let's go HTTP, and let's create a manager test just to kind of see how this is working. Right, let's look types. It can call the static make method. By tests, I'm going to create a stubs, and I'm going to call this integrations.yaml. And I'm basically just going to copy the README example because that is my kind of what I want to be working with. There we go. Integrations YAML, close some of this down there. So in my manager test, we got this. So we want to expect that when we say manager make, the config is going to be coming from there. And we're going to expect this to be an instance of manager class. Let's import that and simplify that. Expect blah 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 manager make. Awesome. This should return a manager. Resolve that. So now I can say compose a test. It's going to fail because it doesn't actually return anything. Return value must be blah blah blah. So what I want to do now, I'm going to return YAML. This is going to fail for the return type, but I want to see what it actually returns. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so can I actually dime dump within here? That is the question. Yes, I can. So I do have that. What I am able to do now, that gives me an array. So what I want to do is return a new manager. The integrations is array map. The array is YAML integrations. YAML integrations, and the callback is going to be, we're going to get an array for an integration. And what this will do is integration from array, where the data is integration. This is kind of what I wanted to be doing. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to work just yet. So let's test. Let's test it out. Let's test. One failed. Unknown array key value. Value is value. Okay, so that is where this needs to be that as well. Bang, we got one. Perfect. So on my test, this is expects call me blah blah blah. Okay, shut up. It's just going to annoy me. Okay, so our array is going to be an array of okay, I might not want it to be done quite like that. What happens if I then pass through, try and get the name out of that? If I just grab that and just dime dump quickly on name, what does that give me? Ah, it's not working. Okay, I'm going to grab that and just put this up here. this and wrap that in a quick line dump call to see if I'm able to get what I want out of this. HTTP closure, blah, blah, blah. Okay, just quiet. How do we want to do this? What's going to be the nicest way to do this without it being ugly? I could say, old school integrations is an array, return new manager where the integrations is integrations, and that's it. And then for each YAML integrations as name integration, and then say integrations name is integration array data integration. I can do this. I'm going to complain a lot, I know. But that might work. Yeah, it's going good. We've got our thing set up. It is good to go. If I come back to my manager, what happens if I just make this public instead? Because that might be what I want. So this is going to be a string and an integration. And this is going to return our manager. So our YAML var array for our YAML should have rough shape of integrations as an array. It should resolve that problem, and all of that should now just work. So our tests, it can create the integrations from the configuration. So our manager is going to be manager make. I'm going to grab that again and just do it like this. And we'll do a couple of tests. So we want to expect our manager integrations GitHub to be instance of integration class. That is all good. We know we can get our integration. So next, when we are working with this, what's this doing? Okay, so this is going to come back with string and mixed. I might ignore that one for now. Okay, so we want to be able to call this. And when we call this, we want to be able to say public, back to our readme quickly, for, okay, public function for bring key pending request. So if array key exists, key is key. The array is this integrations. If we don't have that, then we want to throw a specific exception. If we do have that, then we want to say that our request is going to be HTTP base URL, where the URL is this integrations key URL. Then we want to check auth. So if our this integrations, what am I typing? Key auth. I want to say this is where I might need to make a couple of edits on this. This potentially could be null, I assume. You may not have an array, a auth thingy. So is null or data auth if it exists, then do that. Otherwise, null. I think I should solve that. Let me run my tests quickly. Let's just comment that out. We're still good. We are still good. So if null does not equal that, then set up auth. Otherwise, return our request, because that will be that pending request up there. So let's quickly create our exception. You're going to create an unregistered integration exception. Extends invalid argument because it is technically an invalid argument at that point. And we are going to throw a new unregistered integration exception. So the message is going to be cannot call key. This integration has yet to be registered. And I'll leave it at that. Check auth. If we have authentication, what we want to do is kind of switch on the type a little bit. So we want to match this integrations key auth type. Complaining. I don't care. Okay, so if the type is auth type error, then request with token, where the token is this integrations key auth value. If the auth type is header, we want to say request we're going to say with header the name is the name the value is going to be value. And then the default is going to be saying an exception. So new exception, invalid auth type exception. Again, this is going to extend the invalid argument exception throw new invalid auth type exception message something. I think I need that. There you go, message. Gonna ignore that. I will ignore that. Invalid authentication type registered. Single quote that because I'm not going to pass any arguments in. There we go. So now check auth is handled with header. I'm going to, okay, so I've set a default of authorization like that. Default. So that apparently should never be called, which is fine because we are trying. Yeah, okay, I get that. I get that. So I can delete that. We can delete that. Send a request. This could throw a unregistered integration exception. If we've got auth, we configure it. Otherwise, we return that. So then we've got our pending request, and that's all that matters at that point, right? So manage a test. It can create an integration from the configuration. Blah. It can create a pending request. I need my manager. My manager, and I expect, I say manager for, the key is GitHub. I expect the result to be an instance of pending request. Let's run our tests again. Now we're good. Finally, I will do a quick test of it will throw an exception if the integration is not registered. Void, cool. That, and I can just say manager for, and the key I'm going to pass in is test. And we're going to say throws unregistered integration exception. And let's test that again. Awesome. Cache results. Okay, so it's complaining about this. Maybe it's that. Let's try again. Not complaining this time. Perfect. So composer types. What's my type coverage currently? 100%, perfect. Compose a scan. Are we going to get any issues? And one error in manager. From array expects that mixed given. Line 68 on my manager. .68 here, integration. Apply that. See what it's doing. It expects array URL, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's walk through the types quick. So let's just delete all of this. So what is this YAML going to look like? It'll be an array. Have integrations as an array. That array will have a string followed by an array where the array shape will be name integration. So actually, this needs to be integration at this point, right? It will have this in it, I believe. So let's test our PHP scan again. Okay, now we're just getting more errors. Data of static method from array expects that it's a manager that's having issues up here. Let's just start again. Okay. Our array integrations will be an array. And now we got one error. From array expects that type value name. Type value name. Okay, there's something going on that I'm not seeing. Too many typages. I'm just going to delete all of that and just say you just have an array. I'm not going to drop the types even further. Yeah, I don't care about that. Let's do that. See where we are. Okay, I can quiet that down if I want to. Not a big problem. Not a big problem. So I know that I can achieve that, which is fantastic. So how can I take this further? I think there's a couple of ways. I could quite easily add a directory or something so that I can kind of cache requests within a certain time frame, maybe. This is a good start in my eyes. That it would be nice if I could use that and inject environment variables. Maybe Symfony YAML. Can I inject it? Let me just look at this YAML component. What can I do? It converts YAML strings to PHP arrays. type support, YAML pass file, indentation, object passing and dumping, passing and dumping objects as maps, handling invalid types, date handling, multi-line literal blocks, passing PHP constants. So, PHP enum, that's fine. Dumping binary data, not interested in. Custom tags. It'd be cool if I could do that. But does it have? It looks like I might have to use a custom tag. Okay. So within here, it looks like I've got to do a grab that, and we're just going to say env that, or env I don't know, GitHub token. Like that. I mean, it feels weird writing, but it might be the best approach. For now, let's see if tests still work. Yeah, they still work because the config doesn't matter so much. But in our package service provider, we need to look at, in our YAML pass, YAMLs, tagged value, YAML pass custom tags. At this point, let me just quickly dump on YAML. We need to build this up. What have I been editing? I don't know if I've been editing the right thing. Yeah, env GitHub token rebel token again, tag env rebel token. Excellent, we're getting somewhere. So what this can then do is get the tag and get the tag value. So if I just quickly have a look at this in our manager, and then we can say like YAML past. That's going to be YAML get value. What does that do? Absolutely nothing. Okay, is it because I'm passing? It is because I'm passing data. Not what I want to do. Okay, I'm going to want to pass that. And then I'm going to say that the input is that. And I'm going to say file get contents for that. Now what does it do? It still fails, but what happens if I just say that? That still come back the way I expect it to. It still comes back the way. Okay, so that's good. Let's have a look at this again. So past is there. Past get tag. So if I just ignore that for now and just say tag. Still erroring. Call to member function get blah blah blah. And we'll pass. And we'll pass. I'm doing it. That should work. It's strange. Okay. So YAML pass. I just do that. Where am I on my tests? We're failing now. Perfect. Auth line 23. So I expect auth line 23 here. Giant dump on the data. How am I doing? How am I doing? Type value. YAML GitHub auth value get. So I'm not very familiar with this package, if I'm completely honest. I just know I need it. So if I quickly do a dime dump on YAML GitHub auth value. That's that. No, it's saying no. And find a way key. Again. Voila, env. I can get the tag. I can get the value. So I can then use this and say that YAML integrations name auth value equals get env hopefully. I'm not sure if this is going to be the best place to do it, but we'll see. Right, okay. So what happens when I run tests now? Still failing. It was something like error exception method. Array to string conversion. Boo. Okay. That might not help. So that might not be the right place to do it, I think. So integration from array. At this point, we've got auth down here. So dime dump on data. I've got data at this point. And what I want to do is say data value. Is going to be a tagged value. So value is not going to come through as a string. It's going to come through as a tagged value. Get value. It needs to be read from there, like that. It's failing. Blah, blah, blah. Value must be a ball given in. Okay, so I want just to say env there, not get env. Null given. Okay, so we have not set any sort of environment for that one. So I think we can say something like server env. Oh, this is on github.com. Laravel. I saw an example of this with default Laravel, I believe. Down here we go. PHP env, not a server. So PHP env GitHub token test. Treble token is also test. Now if I run it, bang, we're good. Oh yeah, we know what we're doing. So we are now reading environment variables from here. Oh, that is so nice. Which means you can version control your integrations without leaking secrets, which is fantastic. I'm going to call it a day there. Thank you all for your help. You definitely helped me there. What do you think of doing it this way? I mean, compared to going HTTP, road URL, HTTPS. Whoa, that's too many P's. API.github.com with token, and then you're going to say your token is 134.134.134. Get something JSON. Yeah, instead of doing it that way, what do you think about that? I mean, obviously, I need to make a facade, so I need to come up here and we need to say facades. This facade is going to be called probably integration. Yeah, integration extends facade. Get facade accessor. This is going to return the class, so return integration. Well, no, sorry, manager. So that will kind of resolve it from the container anyway. And now I'm able just to use this as a facade. So if I say integration facade there, and grab that, say use that, and drop that like that. So on here, I know I can add in a method static for string key returns ending request, like that. I'll document that bit later. But there we go. We have a facade. I just need to register it in Composer, blah de blah. So we have extra Laravel providers as an array. Treble API manager, providers, package service, provider. Then we have aliases, integration, which is I can't remember how to do this, but I'll have to add aliases later. Okay. Joining me. I'm going to make coffee because I'm getting thirsty. Thank you. As always, stay awesome. Hope this was a bit better. Take care.